Awesome. So now that we've got the fundamentals set, you guys have faith, you guys have specialized knowledge, you guys have desire, you got everything you can need. We're going to move on to the responsibilities of yourself and the importance of your imagination to create tremendous results in the marketplace. Let's go right over to the computer. Let's get started. So this guy is called Dan Haflin, and Dan, he's going out, he's trying to get his job, and the problem is, the time period was kind of messed up. So he gets out of college, and there's a bunch of people getting out of college at the same time, and they all try to go into the job market, which is like crazy, right? So because of that, he gets his entry-level job at this hearing aid place, kind of like our friend from earlier, except he's not really passionate about it. And he's doing it, and he's selling his hearing aids, but he's pretty sad about it. He's like, I don't really like my job that much. But he realizes that it's up to him to make it work, and if it's meant to be, then it will be his responsibility. So he keeps working there because he knows that if he can work his way up, he can find an opportunity to succeed, an opportunity to be recognized, and an opportunity to grow far higher than where he currently is. And he wants that. He's passionate about it. And he's going to make it happen. So he works there for 2 years. And he just sits along with it. He makes it work because he wants to get a raise so that he can go and become the sales manager. Because he knows that if he's a sales manager, maybe he'll actually get a chance at one of these amazing opportunities to really succeed. And so because he did such a good job at selling his hearing aids, one of the competitors in the hearing aid space came and they said, look, this guy's doing a really good job. He's taking a lot of our business. Maybe we should go see what the heck this guy's actually about. So Dan goes over here to these guys, and they really like him, and they decide that they want to hire him as the new sales manager to direct the hearing aid division, which is or the acoustic division, super powerful. And so this guy leaves here, and he's like, awesome, got a sales manager position. He starts to work. Dan takes his position here, and to test him, the guy who hired him, the big CEO guy, he goes out on a big trip for like 3 months to see if he would, sink or swim. It's kind of it sounds like think or swim, but yeah, really powerful concept. So because of that, he says, all right, cool, I'm gonna make it work. Dan knows that he is going to crush it. It's his job to be the spirit of a winner. Cannot lose this position. This is his position. So because of it, he just goes and grinds and sells these hearing aids, right? Sells that stuff. And after 3 months, right? 3 months later, he's actually, this guy comes back, they meet, and he's done an amazing job. Everyone's super happy with the performance. It just went stellar. And so because of that, a big boss guy says that he was so inspired by his work that he was elected, Dan got elected to become vice president of the company and general manager of everything. It's just amazing. He just has this insane growth, where here's like his corporate ladder, right? And he was starting way at the bottom when he was over here, but then he just got this massive boost, and then this huge jump again in a very short time period. It took him basically 3 months. I'm writing this in Greek because it's important. 3 months to do what it would take most people 10 years to accomplish in this given company. And that was so powerful. It all came from this boss guy looking at this guy and saying, wow, he saw this go-getter attitude. And because he was going hard and searching for this opportunity, the opportunity arise, right? Because he had this mental image, he had this imagination of, I'm going to be this insane, high-level position. And so he just kept working. And that's what got him in front of the people that were actually able to give him that position and gave him a chance towards that position based on his personality, based on his work ethic, based on his past. And that entire philosophy showed that he controlled his conditions because he desired to control them. Once he had that desire and he just took action to make it happen, all of a sudden, this desire transmuted into reality. Very, very powerful thing just came from his subconscious here because of, a really big thing is habit, right? So power of habit is a huge, huge, huge concept here where basically, this guy, he had to do the same thing over and over and over and over. And he wasn't a fan of it, right? But he didn't like it. So what did he do? Well, he had to make a decision. It takes people, 7 weeks to make a really, 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 really powerful habit. You're looking at about 7 weeks. And there's an insane book. I'll leave the book review below. It's called The Power of Habit, and it's based on this concept that the habit can change your life. So because of this idea that it takes, a bunch of weeks, it just depends, but usually it'll take, at least a month to really form this habit. So he just does this for years and years and years. He's selling and selling and selling and selling. And what happens is really cool, right? So it goes into this loop where he starts here at the bottom and he's not making a lot of sales. But as he keeps working towards it, he just keeps progressing over and over and over. And this is what, kind of one of those concepts that you'll see in principles, right? Is that there are temporary declines, but in the long term, there's that upward trend. And that's really the power of, short-term sacrifice and short-term pain for long-term gain. And then obviously, once he got all the way up here, this is where he got to be, vice president and go out there and crush it because he built up his skills to be able to generate this income for the company. So yeah, principles, that's where you're going to start to see a lot of this executive management and growth come into play. And this whole curve is from that book. And then Power of Habit, where you take something that you didn't want to do, right? So he was really sick of selling. He was not a fan of it, but he just turned it into a habit. And because it was a habit, it was way, way, way easier to do. Way easier to perform at his best level. Because he just made a rule for himself that, look, if he's going to work, he's going to perform at his best level and create tons of sales. And that's what he did over and over and over. And that's what attracted this insane position to him. Really, really, really powerful. Yeah, it's so cool because he had this desire, right? And the desire led to the habit. The desire led to the actions. So he used the desire to create a plan and then use this habit formation to actually fulfill that plan and then fulfill his desire to become a very, very high level position, which is really, really, really cool. Hill talks more about how he was, personally involved. His son actually negotiated with Dan, who was that guy who was going up and up and up the ranks for a position in the company after he was looking at rival companies. And what was cool is that his son started working for Dan, even though he was giving basically half the salary of what he could have gotten. Because, and here's a really, really important part, it was this mastermind idea that Hill's son was actually being surrounded by people like Dan who were very, very passionate, out there, going super, super hard. And that was very, very valuable. That was, that connection, that relationship, that personal growth, that development was worth so much more than the initial cash because it allowed him to have this long-term association with someone who refused to compromise with circumstances that they didn't like. It's just something that's beyond value for most people. So you really want to focus on never settling so that you can fulfill your overarching long-term goal. And that's really powerful because it makes you grow and grow and grow and grow. And when you start to have success, right, you have success after success after success. And people say, wow, that's amazing. And you say, wow, that's amazing. And you look at your past and you say, wow, look at all these amazing things I've accomplished. And then you really take gratitude for that. Take reflection on that. Be excited and happy about that. And at the same time, remember, every single day, overarching long-term goal, still working towards it, still more to do, still going to go out there and crush it. Because your past successes enable your future success. Very, very powerful. You want to be grateful for it. You don't want to look at it as a gap. You want to look at it as a gain. Really powerful concept from Dan Sullivan. And he's got a cool podcast. I'm sure I've probably linked around that a little bit, so I'll put some of those resources below for you guys because they're really, really powerful. So, and then another example here, we have Michael Jordan. Okay, Michael Jordan did not settle. All right, he wanted to be the most amazing, player in the world, and he was. He's, is right. Killer stuff. So after he had the willpower to keep in shape, so he got right. Okay, so Hill starts, and this story starts a little bit later in his career, but like you got to remember, right, like this guy got kicked off his high school basketball team, kicked off. Because they thought he was bad. And he said, look, I really have to train. So that really pushed him. He said, look, I'm going to train 1,000%, right? He's going to go super, super hard every day, on his training regimen. And then what he would do, and this is so powerful, guys, is he would create a physical manifestation of his desire to become taller and better at basketball. What would he do? Well, I'll tell you what he would do. I want to put this in green because it's important. He would put salt in his shoes. Salt in his shoes. And then what he would do is he would wear these shoes to bed at night in hopes that it would make, in total belief and conviction that the salt in his shoes would actually make him taller. And lo and behold, now he's ridiculously tall. You know why? It's because the mind inside of him said, look, I'm going to be tall. I'm Michael Jordan. I want to be an amazing basketball player. And whatever his height was, probably a specific height, that's exactly what his body grew to and exactly what he fulfilled to. All because he had this mental envision first, and then he created his reality. He created the physical equivalent after he envisioned it. And the salt in his shoes was a great way to actually have that physical part of his life, that physical connection every single day. So look at ways you can transmute your desire into a physical equivalent or maybe a physical reminder, because that's just going to be one more step towards getting the physical reality fulfilled and actually achieving your desire. Very, very powerful concept. So he gets kicked off high school, goes and trains, puts salt in his shoes, and he goes out there and crushes it, right? Maintains high standards, improves his records. And after he got dropped from the team, he just kept going into college, and then he was amazing. But after he returned to basketball, a few years away from the game, a lot of people said that he was past his prime and that he couldn't do it. They were doubters. And look, guys, you just don't freaking listen to people that say no. You have to completely ignore negativity and cut it away from your life, because these guys are just people that don't want to do things themselves. They're the people that are going to sit on the sidelines, the people that are going to watch and say, wow, I hate this guy or something like that. Like, you just don't want to associate with these people. They're negative vibes, just a bad place to be. So you want to focus on positivity. You want to focus on working towards your goals and being your own. Really cool stuff. So he works harder than ever. He designs his year-round training program. He goes out there to crush it, and the results were awesome, right? He leads his team to the championships in 1996 and 1997, and then he was also the super huge MVP for both years. Like, he actually crushed it. He was amazing. And he showed all these guys that they were totally wrong. And that's one way you can use, doubt and people that say you can't do it. Use it as fuel. I know a lot of people, they were like, dude, you can't write a book until you're in college. Or, you should just wait to publish, or wait to edit it more, or stuff like that when I was, getting it out there. And you use that as fuel, right, to say, look, this is getting done. I'm making this happen. I was going hard, pulling double-nighters all the time because it mattered, and I was passionate about it, and I had deadlines for myself. You need to stick to those deadlines for yourself. People will try to get you off your deadlines, especially for short to medium-term goals. Long-term goals, those are usually more, personal, like I would keep that as a huge thing. But for these, goals, any goal that you set with a deadline, people are going to be like, dude, just slack off, chill out, don't worry about it. You don't need to meet that deadline. Why do you have to hold yourself so accountable? Why do you have to do so much? Why do you have to work so hard? When you hear that phrase, why do you have to work so hard? That's when you know that you're doing something right. Because you don't want to be average. You don't want to be the person that's just sitting there and after they get out of their 9 to 5, they just quit everything. They don't do any more work. They don't do any more education. They don't go on any training programs like this. They don't work towards their future, because that's not going to work, right? That's not going to be how you succeed. That's not going to have, like, you can't expect to be insanely valuable, have insane success, or even just, you know, whatever level of success you want, whatever monetary value that you desire based on your overarching long-term goal. It all comes down to what you're doing right now, which is investing in yourself, investing in your education. That's a very, very powerful, powerful, powerful place to be. And you can use that to do something right, because you want people, you want to be different. When people ask you why you have to work so hard, I've had that asked to me so many times by so many people. And let me tell you something. Extremely wealthy people, extremely successful people, they will never, 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 never say that. Because they had to work ridiculously hard to get to where they were. Almost every single time. And they never stopped to listen to people that told them to slow down or to chill out or to stop working. Michael Jordan, he cannot listen to somebody that says, dude, you shouldn't play basketball, you're too short. It was not possible. It was not even a question in his mind. When he put this salt in his shoes, he said, look, dude, I'm taller. I'm like, I don't know how tall he is. He's like 6 something. He says, I am this height. Even though he might have been shorter at the time, he envisioned his future success, he envisioned his future growth, and he manifested it into a reality by completely ignoring negative criticism. And it's not like, you know, you don't ignore like all criticism, like constructive criticism or feedback, stuff like that. But for a vast majority of situations, you just have to stick to your guts and freaking make it work and do you. And when you do you, you're going to crush it. Because you're able to focus on the positive, you're able to focus on the growth, you're able to focus on the future, you're able to focus on getting in the work, getting in the stuff that needs to be done, and all of a sudden, you're out there crushing it. Really, really, really powerful book related to this topic is Damon John's Rise and Grind. In Rise and Grind, I think, yeah, Rise and Grind, he does like the and, it's all in caps anyway. It's all about, you know, this individual compulsion to actually, you know, go out there and crush it every single morning. Like, to give you guys an example, it's like 4:15 right now. Like, I get up at 4 every single day. I've gotten up at 4 every single day for like the past 3 years. And it's all based on using, you know, like a daily journal so that I know when I'm going to bed and I know, you know, my daily schedule ahead of time. That's super, super important. That's why I talk about it so much in the general membership area. That daily journal is just killer for me. But getting up and crushing it all comes down to this individual mindset. He talks to people like Gary Vee, you know, Gary Vee, then these guys that are absolutely crushing it. Some amazing stories. And I'll link, you know, the review below and I'll talk a little bit more about it. But that book was really, really paradigm shifting because it makes you focus on the idea that, oh, there were so many people in that book that were crushing it. And the only reason they were crushing it is they were putting in the work and ignoring the critics. Because those guys, like, they don't help. And you have to just scratch them out and just succeed by your own. Just get rid of it and be you and crush it as you. And that's where you're going to start to have some real success in the marketplace. It's very, very, very powerful. Excuse me. And it all comes down to that individual mindset, that individual mentality. So, let's see. So we go back to the story. Look, guys, here's the deal, right? The bottom is monotonous, dreary, unprofitable place for all people. The bottom freaking sucks. But you got to start somewhere, right? Like, I started at minimum wage. You have to start somewhere before you start to, you know, really, 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 really grow. It's important to have these baseline skills, right? So maybe here you're developing, it depends on your industry, right? And it depends on what you want to do. But maybe these are like skills, these are like beginner skills. So these would be like step 1 skills. Then you have step 2 skills. And then you have, you know, your overarching, really, really powerful step 3 skills. And as you work, right, the amount of money you make is going to probably increase, right, depending on the skills and the value, right, value that you bring to the marketplace and everything that you can do. And it all comes from like going into these sequences where you're developing these skills. And that's why it's important, right? Like this guy, this sales manager, he had to start at the bottom. He had to learn how to sell. He had to create results. He had to generate revenue for the company. And that was, his stage one. And then he got into this manager position. In this manager position, he had about 6 months, right, to, it was like a 6-month transition period where he was out there, this would be sales. And then just replace this word sales with whatever industry you work in, whatever industry you want to work in, just replace it with that word. And then he went into, management. And he was the director, right? So he was the director of the sales division, and that was another skill set he had to create. And then he got into this insane level over here where he was now the vice president, and he was really, really like a corporate leader. And that's where, he had this massive paradigm shift in value and a total shift in transformation. But remember, that wouldn't have happened without the skills. It wouldn't have happened without the skills here. It wouldn't have happened without the skills here. And he won't have future growth without those skills. And those skills are so, so, so important. And that's why, if you guys have, you should maybe seen, and I'll link it below, that video where I talk about the insane valuable skills that I got working at Subway, right? Like he had to have these skills here to go out there and get it. And put in that work and put in the grind. And those are all principles and individual characteristics that are developed through that baseline work that might pay less than all the way over here, right? It might have less value. But the skills are so important. You need the skills. You need all the skills to create the value over here, right? So to do this, you need to have this done first. You need to have this done first. You need to go in a sequence. You need to go up the stairs one stair at a time. You can't usually just freaking even if you run up the stairs, right? You can run up the stairs super, super fast. But if they're pretty freaking big stairs, if they're 6-foot stairs, you still have to go one at a time. You can't just jump over 5 of them unless you're 20 feet tall, which, yeah. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that visualization makes sense. I feel like there's this really good thing. Like in Georgia Tech, they have these massive, massive, massive stairs. And they're about waist height. So if this was me, this is kind of how high it would be. That's an interesting image. So you can't just jump up 3 stairs at a time. You have to go one at a time because they're really, really big. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here, where you have to go one at a time. And as you go up the stairs, your skills are developed and your skills increase. But remember, if you get here, it's not like you just lose all the progress that you made, right? You keep this progress. You're still above these stairs, and you still have the skills that you created working up those stairs. And in the marketplace, that could be a job, that could be an experience, that could be a course like this. These are all skills that are going to lead you throughout the rest of your life. And it's all based on this principle of understanding that you have to grind at the bottom. You have to make it freaking happen. You have to develop that work ethic. And you have to do an insane job of planning your growth and then executing on it, and understanding that the beginning is usually the freaking hardest part. And as you increase, you get to work more on stuff that you love, but you also get to work harder. So it just kind of freaking depends, because you're still going to be going hard. You're still going to be going really, really crazy. It's not like he was working, an easier job when he was a sales rep than when he was the vice president. But the level of work, right? The level of work increased because get this right. The level of work increased. And the reason it increased is because his personal value increased simultaneously. So as he increased the value he brought to the marketplace, he increased the work he attracted to himself, and therefore increased the amount of money he made, right? Crushed it. And that was all from getting in the right situations and tackling opportunity. So get out there, crush it, get that opportunity, and you'll be amazing, right? It's so, so powerful. And these are kind of some of the underlying concepts in some of the earlier stories about the people that were, making books for their jobs to get these insane applications. They were looking for that opportunity, and they were going to find it. Because in their mind, they had an idea of the riches that they desire. And because of that, and this is really, really powerful. This is page 94. People, perhaps some will find in the idea here briefly described, the nucleus of the riches of they desire. Ideas with much less merit have been the seedlings from which great fortunes have grown. Woolworth's 5 and 10-cent store idea, for example, had far less merit, but it piled up a fortune for the creator. Those seeing opportunity lurking in this suggestion will find valuable aid in the chapter on organized planning. More and more amazing things here, and it all comes from the services you provide to the marketplace and the people that you work with by applying all the insane principles here, and very specifically that mastermind principle, which we'll get to soon. Very powerful. It's just awesome stuff. So now that you've got that understood, now that you know all this stuff, you have to remember, right, everything here came from imagination. Everything comes from imagination. So you want to have that mental vision first, and after you have that mental vision, you can imagine your way to success. You can create the plan that you need, and that's how you're going to create the results that you want with whatever it is that you do. It's very important that you understand this idea, because this is what allows people to create more and more wealth for themselves by simply leveraging their ideas and turning them into realities. Because there's no price for ideas. It's all about using your specialized knowledge, applying it, and then creating the physical manifestation of whatever it is that you want. So, with that said, let's move on. Boop. All right. And we've got here the impulse of desire and imagination. Okay? So, people are going forward, people are crushing it, and it's awesome, right? If you look at the past, 50 years, tons and tons of growth. It's amazing stuff. And that's kind of what, Hill is focusing on here in the beginning. But then he kind of gets into this really interesting thing where he's looking at, he's talking about people can fly better than birds, and all this amazing things that we're doing as a society to harness the power of the ether and the power of the subconscious, which is super cool. Very powerful. But then he starts to get into this really powerful concept called the 2 forms of imagination. And so here I'm going to separate this. We'll have the left side and the right side. Remember, when you're thinking about these 2 forms of the imagination, it all comes down to the idea that limitations are only, within reason, they only lie in the development and use of our imagination. So if you can keep growing and growing your imagination, that's the only place where people really are struggling right now to grow themselves. And that's why it's important that you work on training like this. Like, you can get on a train, go 600 miles an hour, crazy. Now the goal here is to make your mind and your imagination do that same thing. And it all comes down to applying the principles of synthetic and creative imagination. Okay? So with synthetic imagination, you're going to want to kind of figure out where you stand with this and where your strengths are, because you want to focus on your strength, right? Focus on strength and then delegate your weaknesses. Okay? So in the synthetic imagination, you're looking at the idea of arranging old concepts. You don't really create anything. You're just making new combinations, right? So it's nothing new, it's just combining things. And remember, with these 2, obviously, you can combine different aspects of them, and you can, put them together so that you can create whatever you want to create. It just is, and it really just depends on your overarching long-term goal. So this synthetic imagination works with kind of your experiences in the world, in the marketplace, and your education or observation of everything. And with the exception of, the genius who draws on their creative imagination, they can't really solve a new problem through the synthetic imagination. It's really just a way to sort of, work through those older concepts and try to create new ideas and new combinations of them to add value to existing practices and systems. Now, in contrast, with the creative imagination, you're actually, looking at connecting the finite mind of humankind with the infinite intelligence, right? So this is where you're going to have hunches, you're going to have inspirations, and you're going to have new ideas, right? New ideas. And those new ideas with inspiration and with growth, all of a sudden, you can develop these, through the vibrations you have or the interior thoughts of your mind. You write them down, you put them on paper, you tune into this growth mindset, you tune into your subconscious, right? These are generally from the subconscious. And once you have them created, once you have them in your mind, you can work, this is automatic, right? So with synthetic creativity or synthetic imagination, this is intentional. You're putting in the work and you're thinking, intentional thought. What can I get done? How can I combine these things? How can I make this better? But with the subconscious, you don't actually have mental control of your subconscious. So this is more automatic. Okay? And because it works automatically, it only functions when the conscious mind is just kind of chilling out, but also in sync with the subconscious. So the subconscious is stimulated through the emotion of a strong desire. So once you implant this strong desire, it's going to make your subconscious want to create solutions, and those solutions are going to be the automatic ideas, the automatic creative imagination that turn into inspirations and hunches. And that's where you're going to have your new creative ideas rather than just arranging old concepts. Very, very powerful, powerful concept. Now here's something really, really important. And this is where I'm going to take a sec. We're going to finish up the slide and we're going to move on to our next example. Big, big example. Then we'll be pretty much out of here, which is super, super cool. Okay? Creativity, it's just part of your brain. It's part of your head. It's part of your vibrations. It's part of the development of yourself. Okay? But here's the deal. It's developed through use, and both synthetic and creative facilities of imagination become more alert with use, just as any muscle or organ in the body develops through use. Your imaginative faculty may have been weak through inaction. May have become weak through inaction. It can be revived and made alert through use. This faculty does not die, though it may become quiescent through lack of use, right? It may not work as well if you don't use it. So, need to just work on using it over and over and over. The best way to develop and grow, because everybody has this, every single person has this, develop and grow it through use. Now you might be saying, how do I use it? Well, let me tell you how you use it. To use and grow the subconscious, you want to focus on reflection. You want to focus on daily meditation or prayer. What this is going to do, right? You want to allow yourself time to do nothing but connect with your infinite intelligence. This is going to come through that meditation. You're going to feel these vibrations in your head where all of a sudden you're working out your imagination, just like you work at any other part of your body. Through, right, it takes time to work out, it takes time to lift weights, it takes time to do, any kind of, exercise, through continued effort, right? You're not going to have results immediately. You start lifting weights, you're not going to get biceps the next day. You have to keep working over and over and over to have this daily meditation. I do it twice a day, 2 times a day, and have this reflection, daily reflection, so that you know your achievements, you know your growth, you also know what you need to reflect on. Here's a really powerful concept. Go to bed at night, when you're going to bed, ask your mind a question. Ask your mind a question, and what's going to happen is that question is going to ponder through your thoughts while you sleep. You always want to go to bed asking yourself a question, because while your conscious is asleep, your subconscious is automatically answering your question. And this is why it's really, really important that you go to sleep nearby a pen or a paper or a journal, and specifically like a note-taking journal, so that if you wake up and you have this amazing dream and you have this amazing realization because your subconscious answered your question, you want to write it down as quick as possible, because that thought impulse will not stay. It will not transfer to your consciousness unless you get it down on paper. And also, you probably want to go back to bed if you wake up in the middle of the night with an idea. So just write it down really, really quickly. This is so, so, so powerful. I have a stack of papers, just blank paper. And then also I have my journal, right? I have my daily journal right next to where I sleep. And if I wake up and I have this frantic idea that has been solved, right? I went to bed with a question, my subconscious answered it, and now I have this insane solution to a problem I was going to bed thinking about. All of a sudden, this work has been done for me. I scribble it down on paper, I pass back out, I wake up the next day in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, this is insane, this is genius. And it all comes from not wasting a moment of the power of your subconscious and going to bed asking yourself a question that is meaningful but you just don't know the answer to. Your subconscious will find the answer creatively. It'll find the answer with new ideas in your imagination, and it'll connect to this infinite intelligence to create tremendous, tremendous, tremendous creativity in your personality, in your ideas and your thoughts, and the solutions that you have to the problems that you face. Super, super, super powerful. Please, please, please do this for a month. I guarantee you will find a solution to a problem that you thought was freaking impossible, all by harnessing the power of the subconscious, as long as you're following your daily meditation and reflection, or if you're religious, prayer, whatever you want to do. But definitely you need this time to reflect. And that's why you would have a daily journal ideally, so that you could plan out your days and then also have somewhere to take notes. So I do that in my journal. So when I wake up, it's just right there. And then you also have this daily reflection with at the end of the day you have those lines, and that's why I created that journal. So that's a bunch of information all over the place, and also in the general membership area. And I'll leave some of those resources below so that you can get started doing this and crushing it. But it's all just this commitment. I want you guys to commit, right? We've read over it so many times. You'll commit 10 minutes, you'll commit 20 minutes, you'll commit 30 minutes a day to these tasks is what Hill writes. This is how you do it. It's all through, having that half hour before you go to bed where you do nothing but reflect, nothing but grow, nothing but develop your self-conscious and meditate, read your goal statement. That's really powerful. That invigorates the emotions that are needed to actually contribute to these goals. And the way you do that is through consistent action in the morning and at night. Very, very powerful, powerful thing to do. So, please, please, please master and assimilate and begin making use of all of these principles. And that's how you convert desire into money. If there was only one way to state it. And that's what Hill says, right? Is the idea that if you just work on developing your creativity, you will develop ideas that can turn into money in the marketplace based on their value. And that's something very, very, very powerful. So, There you go. Awesome, awesome stuff. Desire is only a thought, an impulse. It is a nebulous and an ephemeral. It's an abstract and of no value until it has been transformed into its physical counterpart. The synthetic imagination is one used most frequently in the process of transforming the impulses of desire into money. You must keep in mind that you may face circumstances which demand the use of creative imagination as well. So make it work, and then obviously you want to use that synthetic imagination. You want to combine current, technologies to actually create the reality that you want for whatever your overarching long-term goal is. It's not, just creativity, but they're both very, very important, and this is how you master both of them. And then obviously just by doing work and creating things, you're going to have a better grasp on your synthetic imagination as well. Super cool stuff. Let's look at an application of the synthetic imagination and also the creative imagination with a very, very powerful company that emerged right around when Hill was writing this book, where this man translated an intangible impulse of desire into a tangible reality of money through plans which were formed with the aid of the imagination and mainly with the synthetic faculty. Now he kind of draws out this story a lot, so I'm gonna not draw it out as much because it's still the same story, but I'll go through most of the process for you guys because it is very powerful. And I remember the first time I read this, it had a huge impact on me, and because of that, I'm not gonna spoil it by telling you guys any secrets at the beginning here. But yeah, this is a powerful part where if you can give definity to a concentrated form of an intangible desire, you really are going to be able to create that reality. You're going to be able to turn your desire into money through plans. And Hill says this is a really powerful part of the book. So definitely a great spot to reread this on your own. We're at about page 100. And also if you need to watch this module again, watch this section again. Very, very powerful part of the book here. So read it aloud. Read the preceding sentence one more time, right? Okay, get this, okay? Put your plan into writing. We've said this so many times if you haven't already done so. The moment that you complete this, you will have a definite, you give definity in your intangible desire. This is what we've talked about so many times. And now we're going to use this idea and we're going to think about its application in a very, very cool real world environment. All right, and it's all about this belief. You have to have this belief. Please, 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 believe. Okay? You can do this. You can crush it. Okay? The earth on which you live, you, yourself, and every other material thing are the result of evolutionary change through which microscopic bits of matter have been organized and arranged in orderly fashion. All right, isn't that insane? Isn't that awesome? You're just a bunch of cells. You're a bunch of these tiny, tiny little things, and they come together, and all of a sudden you have an entire freaking person. And it's all based on this evolution of the individual, and using this belief that we can have a real person, we can grow and succeed, and that's how you start with this small thing, but you just have this desire, and the desire moves you up, and the desire makes you grow, and the desire is the part that's going to create the success. It's going to create the importance, and it's going to, essentially, he talks here about how the entire universe consists of nothing but matter and energy, and how, your matter, right? And you can use desire to create energy that attracts these profits to you, that attracts, you can adopt, right? Turn your desire into its physical equivalent. You can do it. It has been done before. Into its physical monetary equivalent, right? That's the power of having energy first and using that energy to create the physical equivalent, right? Same thing happened. How did the freaking universe start? Big Bang, stuff like that. It all started with this pulsation of energy. And then the energy expanded and grew and it, bam, everywhere. Created the matter. Created the physical equivalent, the physical, right? Created the physical universe. It all came from this impulse at the beginning of energy. And that's where you want to be. You want to be this impulse that just explodes and creates the physical equivalent. And it's all by starting with the subconscious and creating this energy through your overarching, your secret formula. And then obviously the strategies we just talked about to facilitate the growth of your subconscious, the growth of your mind muscles that are going to actually create the plans, to create your universe, right? It's really, really cool. You can build fortune through the aid of immutable laws. But first, you must become familiar with these laws and learn to use them through repetition. Please, repetition. And by approaching the description of these principles from every conceivable angle, Hill wants to show you guys that the secret through which great fortunes have been accumulated. As crazy as it sounds, the secret is not a secret. Nature advertises it on this earth, through the universe, through our galaxy, through our planets, suspended in our view is a secret of biology where you have tons and tons and tons of human cells to turn in to their physical equivalent. It is more than miraculous. There are billions and billions of these little tiny cells lost on the point of a pin that actually create a human being who is listening to this video, reading this book. Very powerful mindset shift. That anything is possible as you put your mind to it. You just erase the word impossible. Everything's possible. It all comes down to desire and transmutation and your ability to freaking stick with it and crush it. So powerful. Don't be discouraged if you don't get all this stuff. This is definitely one of the harder parts, and Hill talks about it here as one of the harder parts. And so because of that, let's actually look at an application, because you really just have to keep growing and keep studying. And once you have, read this, he says read this book 3 times. Can't stand by the statement enough. This book is so powerful. You guys got to grab a copy and read it and read it and read it. And give yourself some time, between readings to actually apply it and actually grow from it. And you're going to come back, and once you start, especially once you create your secret formula and you start applying your secret formula, after you do that, and then you come back and read this book again, that was where I personally had a massive shift in my output and my personal change, because it's like that first step up the ladder. You keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. It all starts with a secret formula, but there is so much more, right? The secret formula is just the beginning. There is all this stuff up here that you can have as well, and that's just insane. And it's all based on this foundational floor, right, of the secret formula. So let's go real hard into this story and make it happen. I'm going to tell it sort of like how he tells it, and if you guys want to look more into it, this is it's just in the book. So yeah. All right, so many years ago, right, there was this doctor, and this doctor, he'd get on his car and he drove into this town, and he's green because he's a cool guy, and that's what a car looks like, because that's what a car looks like. He goes into this town, and this is an orange town, and there's a ton of buildings everywhere. Everyone's super happy, like, hey, look at our amazing town. And he goes to this drugstore, he goes to this pharmacy, and in this pharmacy, there walks in, and he meets the guy at the counter, and the guy at the counter is like, hey, I'm the drugstore guy. And the guy in his car was like, hey, I'm a doctor. Let's talk. And then they talk for about an hour. And here's, drugs are in blue. Yeah, these are like drugs. All right, cool. So they talk and they talk and they talk. This conversation, right, really did create one of the most far-flung benefits ever brought to the South. Since, the way Hill words it is, he said that this conversation led, and it was destined to bring the South the most far-flung benefits since the Civil War. So really powerful stuff here. So for more than an hour, these guys talk, and talk in low tones, they're being secretive. This guy actually leaves. He goes to his car, he grabs his stuff, and then he comes back with a big old-fashioned kettle with a wooden paddle. And he brings this kettle into the store with his paddle. Okay? And he talks to this clerk guy, the drugstore kid, and he says, this is insane. This is the most powerful thing. He's talking to him about how positive it is. And he puts it right in the store. And this clerk reaches into his pocket, okay, and he grabs $500. And remember, this is like a long time ago, so that's like a lot more money than it is right now. $500. This is his life savings, his entire life savings. This roll of bills contains exactly $500. And he gives it to the doctor. And the doctor hands over a small slip of paper. And on this piece of paper, it's worth a king's ransom. But not to the doctor, not to the doctor. This paper has a secret formula, okay? And on the secret formula are the magic words that were needed to start the kettle boiling. But nobody else, these guys didn't understand the insane power of what was actually going on here for a long, long time. So what happened, right? Everyone goes home. This guy leaves. He's super happy because he was a doctor, right? He couldn't do anything with this secret formula, with this kettle, with this wooden spoon. And the clerk is like, he's this young guy. He just invested his entire freaking life saving into this idea, right? That's basically what he bought. He was buying a kettle that was, he was buying an idea. And for this guy, he was happy to sell because he was, paying off his debts, and he was really happy with that. So what this clerk does is he takes the kettle, okay, and he fills it with the ingredients on the little piece of paper, and he follows the formula. It follows the secret formula. Now remember, this is just an idea, right? What this guy is doing is he's enacting a plan. He's taking action on a plan, and the plan would be the formula. But what he's really doing is his belief in his idea that this is something that can happen. Now it's really important because, Hill goes into the future and he looks at the vast, vast fortunes that are created from this idea, this kettle that has been distributed to millions and millions of people. This kettle is now one of the world's largest consumers of sugar and provides a tremendous, tremendous amount of jobs to people all over the world, farming on fields, collecting this sugar, processing this sugar, shipping this sugar all the way across the world just so people can get their hands on it and start to create these this product. The kettle consumes annually millions of glass bottles to provide a huge number of jobs to glass workers, and employs an army of clerks, copywriters, advertising, all these people, and obviously today, plastic too. All these people have tons and tons and tons of jobs, all because of this one idea, this one kettle. Brought everyone together, provided fame and fortune to tons and tons and tons of artists who created magnificent pictures describing the product. Amazing, amazing advertisements. It converted Atlanta, one of the small southern cities, into the business capital of the South. I can attest to this. They have some amazing, amazing stuff here. Huge, huge, huge. Put them on the map. I've been to these places. It's insane. These guys are awesome. I've been all over. It's great. Gold from the Kettle built and maintained one of the most prominent colleges in the South, where thousands of young people received their training essential for success. This old kettle has done marvelous things all through the Depression of 1930s. This gave employment to tons and tons of people. An army of men and women continued to march on, all because they had faith in an idea. And that faith freaking changed their lives by creating the product of the kettle and being proud of what they were drinking, for better or worse. So powerful. In fact, Hill literally met his wife while he was drinking one of these beverages, because the product told thrilling tales of romance and love and business and all these emotions, all this marketing. And it all came down to this world famous kettle that led, Hill himself to literally meet his wife and propose to her based on this idea and based on this drink that allowed him to increase his stimulation without intoxication, and therefore gave him a refreshment of mind that he needed to do his best work. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whatever occupation you're engaged in, every time you see the vast, vast, vast empire created by Coca-Cola, remember one thing. This vast empire of wealth and influence grew out of a single idea and the mysterious ingredient, right? So this drug clerk, Asa Candler, mixed one very, very secret ingredient with this mixture. He took this formula, but he added one ingredient. Now with this ingredient, he combined the 13 steps to riches in this book and in this course and in this lecture. Everything here, he combined all of that to create a massive sphere of influence that extended to every city, town, village, and crossroad of the world. And any idea may create a sound of a meritorious. Coca-Cola is so huge. And it all comes from their stupendous record, as what they've done, and then the history, and then the growth, which is all amazing. It's all so powerful. But their scope of operation, expanding to the world itself, all of this came from this one ingredient that Asa added, this drug clerk added to the secret formula. And that one thing that was added, the one thing that created all these jobs, all these factories, all these workers, right? Everything here that created them on the map, created the publicity, created the results, and allowed them to scale up this practice here, allowed them to scale everything to create massive amounts because of their faith in everything they did. The one thing that Asa combined with the secret formula, I'm going to write this in green because it's important, was imagination. And that led to the creation of one of the biggest companies on this planet. Because it took what was there, took this opportunity, and added imagination, overcame problems, solved all the challenges, created the necessary fulfillment processes by combining both synthetic and creative imagination to create the plans needed to fulfill a desire to create one of the world's largest soft drink corporations. All came from this infusion of imagination into the baseline formula, baseline idea. And because you can combine the idea with the imagination, that's where you're going to have the biggest impact, most insane growth to anything that you do, because it combines the most powerful aspects of anything you can do with your subconscious mind to create exactly what you want to manifest and create the exact amount of wealth that you desire by facilitating and completing the plans that you have and using those for your future growth. Very powerful concept. Hope you guys got a ton of value from this course, from this module, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. Check out all the amazing resources below and crush it. Thank you.